everybody. This is Mind the Nerding Gap. Nerding out across the generations. So this is my son, Dante. I'm Jay. We're just going to talk about things that we think are, pretty cool topics. We're both diehard nerds, and hopefully you enjoy some of this stuff. So here we go. So Dante, how do you define a nerd?
How do I define a nerd?
Yeah, how do you define being a nerd? What is it to you? I didn't mean it to be a trick question.
I think I define it as like having a deep passion for a maybe it doesn't have to be like a media form, but like having a deep passion for something that was created by somebody else, and kind of like what that passion entails. So like going deeper into what you specifically love about that thing, right? So like if you're somebody who likes Star Wars, for example, but you like Star Wars for the dog fights in space and stuff like that, then you're going to be the kind of nerd that likes Star Wars, right? But like going deeper into that, you like a very specific quality of that thing, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I kind of like that. I kind of see it similar. So I think I agree with you on the created part, and I think there could be art nerds. There could be, like you talk about Star Wars nerds. There's a variety of nerds. You could be a pottery nerd, but it's like there's some kind of created content that you get really passionate about, you nerd out about, and that's what, to me, I think is kind of a defining thing for a nerd. My generation, I think, puts a lot of intelligence quotient to it. So typically, we define a nerd as someone that's of higher intelligence, and then the passion part of it towards something. And typically, or at least when I was younger, it was media that wasn't as common or general. Whereas there's probably a ton more Star Wars fans nowadays than when I was young. At least my impression and stuff like that. So I think there's probably a lot more nerds out there than what, at least what we proclaimed ourselves to be nerds. All right, so I guess that does bring up the next question, though. So, does your crowd consider being a nerd cool?
I think growing up, yes, because I feel like when you're a kid, there's a quality about yourself that is very open-minded about new things, and new creations that you could potentially find interest in. Like, for example, when I was growing up, when I was in 6th grade, you were the weird kid if you didn't have Skyrim. If you didn't have Skyrim and hadn't played that game, it was like, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like, it was a very like kind of different niche of like, I think everybody was able to find something within like big like creations like that would come out, and like that there would at least be a big enough initial fan base to where it would get other people talking about it. And I think that then people were much more open-minded about that. I feel like now with my generation, as everybody's grown, and this is just my own perspective, I feel like people have kind of just taken their own lane now. Like, it's kind of a situation of like, people may not look down on somebody for like having a deep passion for something that like they can't really grasp, right?
Right.
When like I don't know. I don't know if this was what it was like with your generation, but at least speaking through that perspective, I feel like in your generation, it probably would have been a lot more niche of like people kind of looking down on others that like had those sorts of passions. Yeah.
Right. I definitely think your generation is more open, like you said, open-minded about things like that, and much more creative for sure about having those, because there's still niches, but it seems like in general, people accept those, or they kind of put them together so that there could be a bigger community around that niche. So your niche could fit into a pocket community, then you guys can grow from there. Whereas, I definitely feel my generation, we were definitely less willing to accept difference.
Well, and I feel like the ability, I wasn't really as much there, right? Because like you didn't really have like these big internet platforms as well to like congregate on and like find other people and stuff.
Your people.
So
I think you're right. That's definitely a part of it and everything. All right, so let's get into the topics that may actually interest other people other than ourselves talking to each other. So generally, we want to cover like movies and TV. So we'll cover things like Star Wars, like Ahsoka, and things like comics. So today we kind of want to talk about The Boys and Gen V, horror. Talk about Welcome to Derry was one of the ones I brought up, but I think there's some other ones we can talk about. And then just maybe a couple hot takes, and then we'll wrap it up. So let's start with Ahsoka. So what was your take on the final episode? I have a lot of theories, but
so do we want to do like ratings and then
give us your rating.
Okay.
What was your rating of the final episode of Ahsoka?
I want to say 8 out of 10.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Mainly because there were a lot of things that I feel like they built up over the series that you kind of saw come to full fruition in the episode. But then there was also a lot of things that they left questions for that I feel like were like the good things to leave questions for. Now there were some things, which is that -2, that I feel like they shouldn't have really left questions for, or like that should have maybe happened in a different way. Like maybe we should have gotten there differently. But I do feel like the plot points that happened and like, very, very specific scenes were just so good in top tier Star Wars that it had to like hit that like 8 to 10 range for me.
Okay.
But yeah, how did you feel about it ratings wise?
I'm torn. So I'm probably gonna give it closer to a 7 than an 8. And it goes right into my theory. My theory is originally before the actor strike and the writer strike and everything, and then unfortunately, the passing that happened, I think they had more of a bigger bang that they were going to have. I think Balin was actually going to find the source of what was drawing him there, not just the statues, but some entity that he would encounter.
People.
Spoilers. Yeah, I guess spoiler warning if you haven't watched it by this point. But I think he was going to find whatever this thing was, and it was going to set up for more, potentially the movies and stuff like that. Or, I guess now they have greenlit Ahsoka season 2, but I think that also impacted what they decided to reveal here. So I was a little frustrated with that, and especially because at this point, if they're going to follow that, they're more likely than not going to have to recast Balin, which that's going to be tough.
Well, and that's more or less what my -2 was, right? Was like Balin and Shin, like you introduce these characters that are just like enigmatic, like compared to anything else that we've seen in Star Wars,
right?
And like
you didn't do anything with them. Ultimately.
Yeah, like one of the characters has like a bittersweet kind of like fucked up ending where they're just kind of like isolated from everything else. And then the other character, they're isolated from everything else, but like they're, trying to adopt a new people, I guess.
Yeah.
And then with Balin, like you're saying, it's like, I like the idea that they were supposed to end up being that way. Like Balin was supposed to end up being isolated and on his own, and he was supposed to end up going through with this on his own.
Right.
But the issue is like what you're saying, where we've hit this kind of barrier where it's like, what do we do when the passing of an actor meets with these strikes, and like what really occurred in the writer's room there,
right, exactly.
like that's but yeah, kind of going into that, I feel like the best decision, in my opinion, is to recast. And I've seen a lot of like different people that others have come up with on the internet of like, this guy would be perfect for it. Like Liev Schreiber was one of them.
Yeah. Put a beard on him. Yeah. He could do it. Yeah.
I was trying to think of who else, but there was somebody else that people were saying. But I think that that's the best option, but I don't want it to be a case of the actor comes in and feels as though they have to essentially like mimic Ray Stevenson's performance,
make it their own.
I want them to still make it their own, but like still have just influences of what Ray Stevenson brought to that character, because it's a character that Ray Stevenson played. It's not per se, that Balin is Ray Stevenson, right?
Being that he's only done it for this.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I can see that, because there's like key elements like his saber fighting style, things like that. Just some of the physicality that he had and things like that you'd probably want to carry over. But you're right. Beyond that, it should be that actor, making it their own. So I agree.
Yeah,
that's very cool. I agree with you there. Yeah, I think with them, I guess another spoiler warning. Officially, ratifying or what do they call it when they make it not codify,
rationalize?
No, where they make it a part of the whole genre now that's official again.
Oh, canonized.
That's what I was looking for. So now that they've officially canonized the Force gods, right?
Yeah, the ones.
Right. So the Father, the Son, and the missing daughter. But so I think there's a lot of potential there. And I suspect, because I don't know if you heard about this, but Dave Filoni has been officially greenlit to do 3 movies. So it is going to be a trilogy now. Thrawn is going to be a big part of it. I think they're going to have to upscale him. I hate to say it, but at least on the makeup and stuff, I think they're going to have to upscale it for the movie. I think the makeup was probably okay for the show. I think you need to up your game for the movie.
I think that was one of the things that kind of unfortunately shows in some of these some of the Star Wars show sequences is that like the budget is clearly spread a lot more as opposed to being confined to a film.
Right.
So like there's definitely moments where like there'd be like some scenes where it's like that just looks off, or like it just doesn't look right.
Exactly. It's like, and I get where they're going, but yeah, I think they're gonna have to up their game. So once they, make that transition. So anyway, otherwise, because unfortunately, and I heard this comment from some other YouTubers and stuff like that, but it just looked like they were playing cosplay rather than you were really taking away to this universe and everything. So, and being someone that didn't really watch Rebels, the voice wasn't enough to captivate me, so I needed the whole persona to complete it for me, and that's, I think, one of the challenges I had.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, that's probably a challenge that a lot of book fans had, especially because, like, I'm not deep into the Thrawn books because that wasn't really popular.
But I think they're going to base the movies off of the era of the Empire thing.
Yeah, books, right? I do think that they're going to take heavy influence from that.
Right.
But yeah, I think that was, more or less a lot of the physicality complaints and stuff like that I saw were probably people that had either seen Rebels or, read those books that had a lot deeper connection to Thrawn.
Right.
And, for me, like I think that I have kind of a unique perspective in that, like, I watched some of Rebels, it wasn't really my thing, didn't read the Thrawn books, and so this is almost like more or less the character being introduced for me, essentially. Right. And I think it hit home for me. But I think it hit home more in the sense of finally we have a villain in Star Wars that isn't just like the pure insidious, just disgusting evil that Darth Sidious was, right? Like we finally have a villain that like that is more tactical,
right?
And
strategist
is less,
instead,
and is less like. And it like, you know, just like that is that character. And it's like, you know, I do love Palpatine. Like, don't get me wrong. I absolutely love him for that quality of him just being ridiculously evil for evil's sake. Right. But like at the same time, we need a new iteration. Like we need something fresh. And I feel like Thrawn brought that to the screens, at least for the people that are watching the shows. And I feel like that's part of the problem with the dynamic too, is I hope that Filoni's able to, because there's a lot of people that I know that watch Star Wars that only watch the movies, right? Like they only watch the theater releases. Right. And so it's like, I feel like for those people, it's going to be so confusing, like so ridiculously confusing if we just jump into this, right? Like, you know, and that's part of the other issue that I foresee, and I hope that doesn't like really tamper on the film, because like for the people that have watched all of the shows, they're going to be going into that probably really hyped and like prepared, and like really prepared, and like they're probably going to be really satisfied with whatever they see. But then the people that only watch the movies are going to kind of be like lost. Well, what is going on?
Then the flip side is going to be is he's probably going to piss off all the diehard fans that have watched the shows and watched Rebels, and then they go to the movie and they have to get a recap for like the first half hour, right? And they were like, I don't need this. I'm sitting in a theater watching a recap, right? Yeah. So I fast forward the recaps all the time. I hate that. so I can see that being a problem. All right, so let's jump topics. Let's go into comics. Let's talk about The Boys Gen V. So what did you think of? It's perfect for our generations thing. What did you think of the latest episode 4? So this is going to be all spoilers, I'm sure. So,
pure spoilers.
Pure spoiler discussion.
Tech Knight, man.
Tech Knight was sweet.
God. I can't believe they brought that character in, because in the comics, he is a complete joke character.
Oh, that's interesting.
He is literally like he still does something by the end of the comics that is like, you know, kind of redeeming of his character in a sense. But like, he is basically just a complete joke through the comics. And it's interesting how they adapted him, because in the comics, he's kind of like your Batman meets Iron Man sort of character.
Okay, which makes sense the way they adapted him. So that they focus more on the Batman part of it.
Yeah. And then I really liked that they took that Batman part of it and like, he's basically just in consistent Bruce Wayne persona, mixed with like detective.
Right. He's just doing detective consistently.
It's so good, man. And
except for he has to hump every hole that he finds.
And that's the other part that like was interesting that they adapted, is that Tech Knight's character in the comics can't stop fucking shit. Like
so that really is in the comic.
He literally cannot stop fucking things. And that's in the comics you see him like talking to his therapist and shit about it. And so like that's when I first saw that they were bringing in the character, I was like, and like the way that they framed it at first and everything too, I was like, so are they bringing in this character, but like he's just completely serious? Like,
right, because they were making him serious. Like he seems intimidating. Everybody's scared of him.
Completely in universe serious. And I was like, oh, okay. But then it came out. Then you feel like an idiot too, because like the whole time it was in your face of like him rubbing holes.
Everything. Yeah, he picks up the bagel and starts rubbing it. Yeah. Yeah, they earned that. I agree. It was interesting though, because like how he threatened the dean. He's like, you're only a human, you know? And I was like, there's something to her. There's some reason this human was intimidating to the supers, and we found out because she's got her crap together, right? Yeah, she got eyes on everything, so she got everybody's dirty laundry. She knows all the skeletons, where all the bodies are buried. So.
Yeah, well, and it's kind of intriguing to me too, because like she seems very kind of, she's Thrawn-esque, where she's very
a strategist.
Tactical. Yeah, she's a strategist. And like, I'm wondering, because in the first couple episodes, or maybe it was only the first episode, I don't remember, but they had those couple sequences with Ashley and like bringing up Homelander and stuff. Mm-hmm. But ever since then, they haven't brought them up at all.
Right. They've left Ashley and Homelander out of it.
Right. Like ever since Ashley hung up the phone on her, mm-hmm. she's never come up again. And mm-hmm. so it's like, I'm wondering like, how much of this does Vought fully know about? Because I feel like Ashley or somebody would have already been reaching out to this dean about what the fuck is going on, because you have multiple guards dying. You have like a whole like lab of states.
I think she's been trying to cover all that. So I think that's what Tech was talking about too.
Yeah.
So I don't think she's let Vought know about Sam being
they must not know
and
about
all that
anything.
Stuff. Yeah, because I think someone from the 7 would have probably showed up as well.
Yeah.
So I think she's been able to keep that all under wraps pretty good. But you're right, though. It'll be interesting to see when this all really blows up.
Yeah, like what is the reaction going to be? Yeah.
But I think she's got a little bit more, and I think that's what they hinted at in this episode. So when the whole Scooby Gang says to Sam, "We're going to make sure you're safe," and then she blacks out, right? I think Vought had something to do with that. And I think we're going to learn about that. And then she wakes up and she's like in bed.
Yeah. And well, so it's weird because they have multiple angles that they could take with this, because they could either have it be that Kate, degloved and brain skipped all of them at once.
Oh.
They could have it be that, or they could have it be that the Rufus dude that Marie blew the dick off of, like maybe he came out of the woodwork.
Well, so here's my theory: is I think they actually, because it's funny that you said that. I think that they've implanted these students with a roofie type thing, and that they can hit the trick. And I think what happened was, I think when he said, "Wait, it's not what you think," I think he was being honest, even though he was naked and he probably was going to take advantage of her. I don't think he's the one that knocked her out. I think they flipped it on her and she went blank, and he took her home and he was like, well, she's not going to wake up. And he was about to take advantage of her, but I don't think he's the one that made her go out, though.
Maybe, yeah.
And so, then she blew up his dick. But, I mean, so he still earned that. He was still going to take advantage of her. It's just that I don't think he's the one that knocked her out. And so I think that's going to be, especially after Golden Boy did what he did, I think they wanted to make sure they had sort of a off switch so that if things were getting too dangerous, they could turn them off. That's at least my theory. So we'll have to see where they go with it, but that's my theory on it.
Yeah. Because one of the big things that I'm curious about that like I know is going to happen this season, but I don't know how they're going to do it or how he's going to come in. Jensen Ackles is part of the cast.
Right, that's what you said. That's your.
He's in it as
somehow
Soldier
your
Boy.
Insider information.
He's part of the cast. Like if you look it up, he's in the cast as Soldier Boy. So it's like I'm really curious how they're going to bring that in, especially because they have a lot of characters that we don't really know how their power scales up to someone like Soldier Boy or someone like Homelander,
right?
Because like. They wouldn't have had any prior combat experience not especially that we're shown, but that they know of that would have shown them that they're at that power level.
Right. Whereas Soldier Boy actually was fighting a war and was sent out on wartime missions and stuff like that. So, yeah. So interesting. That is an interesting thought. It'd be really interesting to see how they bring Soldier Boy in. Unless... Because at the end, didn't they like box up Soldier Boy and basically take him away?
He was boxed up, yeah.
So I'm wondering if things are going to get bad enough where they're going to unbox him to deactivate these students.
That's what I'm wondering is maybe the woods tied to like where Soldier Boy is stored? Maybe?
Right, because maybe it is the same place ultimately.
Yeah,
and they've just got him, knocked out in the woods, because I don't think they're trying to do what they did with the other students. Because at least it was implied, if not more explicit, that at some point Golden Boy was in the woods and they had brainwashed him and he didn't remember any of it. So, I think that's what they try to do with the more powered up, dangerous ones, they try to figure out some way to brainwash them and to make them into a normal, upstanding citizen.
And it seems like especially with like the operation that they were like performing on Sam,
right, where they were tapping into his spinal column.
Like, I think that they're trying to like figure out a way to like disable Soups or like kill Soups.
Actually, I think you've got something there, because like when the guard does the thing with the sonic thing on him and he starts messing with his hearing, I think that's exactly what it is. I think you're right on. I think a lot of what they're doing is experimenting on tools and weapons to disable or get rid of Soups. And Soldier Boy is one of the ultimate tools for that. Yeah. Right? I mean, other than him blowing stuff up, but he has the ability to deactivate your superpowers, right? So they could tap into that and basically put that into a weapon they can control. Yeah. So I could see that. But I think you're absolutely right. I think that's part of their goal, is experiment on these students to figure out a way to stop Soups. So they created the Soups. Now they're trying to figure out a way to stop them, especially the more volatile ones, I guess you could say.
Man, it's the Frankenstein's monster dilemma.
Exactly.
You create the monster and now you have to figure out a way to destroy it.
Yep. You let it out of the barn. Now you got to figure out a way to put it back in. And it is not going back to the barn willingly.
That toothpaste ain't going back in the tube.
The tube, I know. You just squeeze it out. I don't care what you try to do. All right. So I guess we'll just kind of we'll skip horror for this time, but let's do some hot takes. So what things are coming up that you're really excited about?
Things coming up I'm excited about. Well, I mean, of course, I mean, kind of going into horror a little bit. Okay. I'm excited for Terrifier 3.
Oh, so they did officially announce Terrifier 3?
Well, Damien Leone, who's the creator and director, he's come out and said that he at least believes that he's like expecting to begin shooting at the end of this year. Okay. And then expects to release the next movie at the end of next year. Which would put him in the same schedule that he put himself in for Terrifier 2, which is a little bit scary because like I heard that the filming of Terrifier 2 was like a little bit wild. Like they were in it was
a nightmare in itself.
Some pretty bad conditions. And
no!
Like not to like shit on the way he films or anything. Right, like but that. It was just where they were and like things like that. Just the conditions of how things had to be set up and everything. Okay. From what I've heard of like the actresses and the actors talking about it. But, okay. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the Devil May Cry anime.
Oh, I didn't know they were making a new Devil May Cry anime.
Yeah. And I don't know like when it is supposed to be covering. But it's definitely like classic Dante style. Like they're not following the new DMC
Neo whatever.
I forgot what the developer of that game was, but it was Ninja something.
Right.
Not their like timeline.
Kiwi Ninja or whatever.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't Kiwi Ninja. That is one, but it wasn't Kiwi Ninja. It was some other. Something Ninja.
Yeah, sorry.
That's like I think that's like the only games they're really known for too. But so it should be taking place. I'm assuming like probably like I'd have to assume between Devil May Cry 1 and the newest game.
Oh, interesting.
But I don't know where in the timeline it lies, and the games are weird with timelines too, anyway. So it's kind of hard to just lay out here. But right. There was a promo that was shown as part of it was like an Amazon promo event, I think.
Oh, so it's going to be on Amazon Prime?
I don't believe so. I'm not sure what it's going to be on, but it was a promo event, and there was like a animation that was tied to the promo event, and it showed Dante like doing like flips and like bullet time and shit in an anime style, and it was clear that it was like original Dante. So I'm really excited for that. I don't really know about like dates on that or anything. I don't think anything's been released in that sense of like when it would be coming out, but it's at least been confirmed and like, it's being worked on.
Very cool.
So I'm very excited for that.
Our cameras got a message on it.
All right, and we're back.
We had a little bit of a service disruption there. Technical difficulties, so it'll be much smoother next time, but we just wanted to do an official outro here. So thank you for joining us. We're excited to kick this off. This is version 1.0 very clearly. Dante, thank you for joining me, and I'm excited to continue our discussions.
Yes, sir.
All right. Talk to you next time.
All right.